What if the lonely old man you showed compassion to every single morning, the one whose coffee you poured, whose toast you cut without being asked, was the father of the most feared mafia boss in Chicago? And what if every smile you gave him, every moment of warmth, was pulling you deeper into a world where kindness is seen as weakness and mercy gets people killed? Before we begin this story, may your heart be blessed with peace, love, and everything you dream of. If you believe love always finds its way, even in the darkest places, make sure you're subscribed, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing where my beautiful people are joining from. Now, let's begin. Maya Chen, 28, had no idea that her small acts of kindness were being watched, documented, judged. She was drowning in $11,000 of medical debt, working double shifts at Rosie's Diner on Chicago's South Side, still $480 short every month. All she had left was kindness, and it was about to put a target on her back. Rosie's Diner wasn't where dreams came true. It was where they came to die. Cracked vinyl booths, peeling linoleum floors, the smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease that clung to everything. Maya had worked the morning shift for 3 years, 5:30 a.m. to 2:00 p.m., 6 days a week, serving people who barely looked up when she refilled their cups. She'd left nursing school in her 3rd year when her grandmother Rosa, the woman who raised her after her parents died in a car accident, had a massive stroke. The hospital bills hit like a freight train, $47,000 after insurance. Her fiancé Marcus, who'd proposed just months before, left a note on the kitchen counter. "I can't start a marriage drowning in someone else's debt. I'm sorry." So Maya traded scrubs for an apron, traded saving lives for serving eggs. Rosa's rehab facility cost $3,200 monthly. Medicaid covered $2,300. Maya made $2,100 a month. The math didn't work. It never did. But she showed up anyway, because Rosa had taught her one thing no amount of debt could take away. Baby, kindness costs nothing, but it means everything. Every morning at exactly 6:47 a.m., the bell above the door chimed, and Brian Hurley shuffled in. 83 years old, with weathered hands that trembled on his cane and steel-gray eyes that seemed to look through people rather than at them. He wore the same faded tweed jacket, worn slacks, cracked leather shoes. He always sat in booth 7 by the window. Always ordered black coffee, scrambled eggs, wheat toast. And he never spoke to anyone. Denise, the veteran waitress, called him the ghost in the corner because he left exact change and never tipped. Tony, the owner, had stopped caring about him years ago. But Maya saw something different. She saw the way his hands shook when he tried to grip his fork, the way his jaw tightened when he struggled to cut his toast, the profound, aching loneliness that radiated from him. She recognized it. She'd felt it herself after Marcus left, after Rosa's stroke, after every dream she'd ever had got boxed up and shoved in a corner marked, "Someday." So one morning, without asking, Maya gently took the knife from his trembling hand and cut his toast into perfect triangles, bite-sized, easy to manage. Brian's cloudy eyes lifted to meet hers. For 3 long seconds, he just stared. Then, slowly, he nodded. That simple nod was the beginning of everything. Over the next 8 months, their silent ritual became the anchor of Maya's chaotic life. Week by week, their connection deepened in small, profound ways. Just, "Good morning, Mr. Hurley," met with silence. "Coffee's strong today," earned a grunt of acknowledgement. The first breakthrough. As Maya set down his plate, Brian's gravelly voice broke the silence. "My wife used to cut my toast like this, Esther. Been gone 11 years. Maya's throat tightened. "She sounds like she was wonderful." He showed her a faded photograph, a beautiful woman with kind eyes standing in front of a flower shop, arms full of tulips, smiling like the sun itself. 43 years we had together. Wasn't long enough. One gray morning in March, as Maya refilled his coffee, Brian looked at her with eyes that might have held tears. "You remind me of her, my Esther. She saw people, really saw them." Maya reached across the table and squeezed his weathered hand. "I see you, Mr. Hurley. From across the diner, Denise rolled her eyes. Still wasting time on the old man who doesn't tip? Girl, you're too soft for this world. Maya didn't answer. What she had with Brian wasn't about money, it was about being human in a world that had forgotten how. What Maya didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that every single morning, parked directly across the street in a black SUV with tinted windows, a man in an expensive tailored suit sat watching through a camera lens, taking notes, photographing every interaction, every smile, every moment of warmth. And 20 miles away in a glass office overlooking downtown Chicago, those surveillance reports landed on the mahogany desk of William Hurley, a man whose name made even hardened criminals look over their shoulders. Brian Hurley's son, the boss of the most powerful crime family in the Midwest. And William Hurley was reading every single word about the waitress who cut his father's toast into triangles. Because in the world William controlled, kindness wasn't just rare, it was dangerous. That simple nod changed everything. The next morning at 6:47 a.m., when Brian shuffled through the door, Maya already had his coffee poured. She set down his plate, scrambled eggs, wheat toast, and without a word, took the knife and cut his toast into perfect triangles. Brian watched her hands move with practiced care, then looked up and met her eyes. "Thank you," he whispered. It was the first time he'd ever spoken those words to her. From that day forward, their ritual deepened. Maya would refill his coffee before he could signal, sit across from him for 30 precious seconds while the breakfast rush built around them, and ask simple questions that pierced through his loneliness. "How'd you sleep, Mr. Hurley?" Or, "Warming up out there?" Brian only grunted in response, but Maya noticed the way his shoulders relaxed when she sat down. As Maya poured his third cup, Brian's gravelly voice broke the comfortable silence. "Coffee's good today." 3 words, but they felt like victory. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday. Maya had just finished cutting his toast when Brian's weathered hand reached out and gently touched hers. "My wife used to cut my toast like this," his voice cracked. "Esther, been gone 11 years now." Maya's throat tightened. She squeezed his hand. "She sounds like she was wonderful." She was. His eyes grew distant. "The only good thing I ever did right." One morning, Brian pulled a faded photograph from his wallet, creased and worn from years of being carried close to his heart. A beautiful woman with kind eyes stood in front of a flower shop, arms full of bright tulips, smiling like she held the sun. The hand-painted sign behind her read, "Esther's Garden." 43 years we had together, Brian whispered, staring at the photo. "Wasn't long enough. Will never be long enough." On a gray morning in early March, as Maya refilled his coffee for the 4th time, Brian looked at her with tears glistening in his steel-gray eyes. "You remind me of her, my Esther." She saw people, really saw them. Not what they owned or what they'd done, just saw them. Maya reached across the table and held his trembling hand. "I see you, Mr. Hurley. I really do." From across the diner, Denise shook her head. "Girl, you still wasting time on that old man? He doesn't even tip." Tony called from the kitchen. "Stop getting attached, Maya. He's just another customer." But they didn't understand. Maya knew what it felt like to be invisible. She'd felt it after her parents died in that car accident when she was 8. Suddenly, an orphan in a world that moved too fast to notice one grieving child. Her grandmother Rosa had saved her. Rosa, the church lady who sang in the choir and brought soup to sick neighbors, had raised Maya with one unshakable belief. "Baby, kindness costs nothing but means everything. When someone's hurting, you don't look away, you see them." Maya carried that lesson into nursing school. She was top of her class in her 3rd year when Rosa collapsed in the kitchen, a massive stroke that left half her face frozen and her dreams shattered. The hospital bills hit like a freight train, $47,000 after insurance. Maya worked 2 jobs while trying to stay in school, but it wasn't enough. Marcus, her fiancé of 2 years, who'd proposed with his grandmother's ring just months earlier, left a note on the kitchen counter. I can't start a marriage drowning in someone else's debt. I'm sorry. He took the ring. He took her faith in forever. He took her belief that love could survive hard times. Maya dropped out in her final year to work full-time at Rosie's. Rosa moved into a rehab facility that cost $3,100 monthly. Medicaid covered $2,300. Maya made $2,100. Every single month, she was $480 short. Every month, she fell further behind. But she never stopped showing up, never stopped cutting Brian's toast, never stopped seeing people, because Rosa hadn't raised a quitter. Over the following months, Brian began opening up in careful, guarded fragments. He'd been a businessman before retiring, though he never explained what kind. He had a son he no longer spoke to. "We see things differently," was all he'd say, his jaw tightening. He'd made terrible mistakes he could never undo. "Some things you can't apologize for, Maya. You just carry them till you die." But most mornings, Brian admitted, the only thing that got him out of bed was knowing that at 6:47 a.m., someone at Rosie's diner would treat him like he was still human, like he still mattered. One morning in mid-March, Brian looked at Maya with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You have a light in you, Maya. Don't let this world take it. Don't let the weight of everything crush what makes you, you." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She squeezed his hand tighter. "I see you, Mr. Hurley." What neither of them knew, what neither could have known, was that across the street, parked in the same spot as always, a man in an expensive suit sat in a black SUV with tinted windows. He lifted a camera with a telephoto lens and captured that exact moment. Maya's hand holding Brian's, both of their faces softened by something rare and precious. He typed into his tablet. Month 8, Day 3. Subject continues demonstrating genuine care for target. No evidence of manipulation or ulterior motive. Assessment, authentic connection, recommend continued surveillance. 20 miles away in a glass office overlooking downtown Chicago, William Hurley read that report for the third time. He stared at the photograph of his father, tears on the old man's weathered face, actually smiling, and felt something crack in his chest. His father looked happy. After 11 years of grief and guilt and slow death, Brian Hurley looked alive again. William set down the report and stared out at the city he controlled through fear and power and carefully calculated violence. And he wondered if his father had finally found what he'd been searching for all these years. Redemption. At 6:47 a.m., Maya poured coffee into the empty mug she'd already set at booth 7. By 6:52, it had gone cold. Brian didn't show up. The hollow sensation in Maya's stomach wasn't hunger. It was dread, immediate and visceral. She kept glancing at the door, expecting to see his stooped figure shuffle through, muttering about the cold. But the door opened for construction workers, nurses ending night shifts, bleary-eyed students. Never Brian. By 7:30, worry had settled into her bones. By 8:15, she was terrified. "Your boyfriend stood you up, honey?" Denise called from across the diner, not unkindly. Maya tried the number Brian had scrawled on a napkin months ago. Emergencies only. The automated voice felt like a slap. "The number you have dialed has been disconnected." She told herself the stories people tell to ward off truth. Doctor's appointment, overslept, caught a cold. Old people got sick. It happened. But deep down, she knew. At 9:03 a.m., 3 men walked into Rosie's diner, and the entire world went quiet. They weren't cops, they were something else, something that made customers instinctively look down at their plates, made conversations die mid-sentence. They moved with predatory grace, expensive suits cut perfectly to conceal what Maya suspected were weapons. The lead man was handsome in a dangerous way, dark hair, darker eyes, a smile that never reached past his teeth. Maya Chen? His voice was smooth as silk, twice as dangerous. Maya's blood went cold. "Who's asking?" He slid a business card across the counter, black with silver lettering. Vincent Calabresi, security consultant, Hurley Enterprises. "I work for the Hurley family." The words came like bullets. Mr. Brian Hurley passed away Friday night. Heart attack. He was 83 years old. The room tilted. Maya gripped the counter to keep from falling. Tears she didn't expect, didn't want, stung her eyes. Friday, 3 days ago. While she'd been laughing with other customers, restocking napkins, living her life, Brian had been dying alone. Vincent continued, "There's something you need to know. Mr. Hurley left instructions." He pulled out a cream-colored envelope with Maya's name written in Brian's shaky cursive. "You've been requested at the reading of his will. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. He handed her an embossed card with a Lake Forest address that screamed old money. Maya stammered, "Why? I was just his waitress." Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Apparently you were more than that." Before leaving, he paused at the door. "Miss Chen, the Hurley family is complicated. Be careful who you trust." After they left, Denise whispered, "Girl, what have you gotten yourself into?" Maya's hands shook as she opened the envelope. Inside was a single line in Brian's handwriting. "Forgive an old man for his secrets." Maya took 3 buses to reach Lake Forest, each mile carrying her further from the world she understood. She wore her only good dress, navy blue, thrift store, $12, wrinkled despite her best efforts with Rosa's ancient iron. She felt like an imposter the moment the estate came into view. The Hurley estate sprawled across 20 acres of manicured perfection. Stone walls 12 feet high surrounded the property. Iron gates with cameras mounted at every angle opened slowly, reluctantly, as if the house itself resented her presence. Guards in dark suits checked her ID twice, searched her worn canvas bag, spoke into earpieces with clipped efficiency that made her skin crawl. The driveway stretched forever, lined with ancient oak trees that had witnessed decades of secrets. At the end stood the mansion. Gothic Revival architecture, 3 stories of gray stone and dark windows that seemed to watch her approach. It looked like something from a mob movie, all sharp angles and shadows. Men with guns poorly concealed under expensive jackets flanked the entrance. Their eyes tracked her every movement. Maya's stomach churned. This fortress, this world of wealth and violence and paranoia, this was not the Brian she knew. The gentle old man who cried over toast and carried his wife's photo couldn't have come from this place. Could he? A stone-faced butler led her into a study that smelled of leather and old money. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves held leather-bound volumes that looked unread. Oil paintings of stern-faced men in expensive suits glared down from paneled walls. Mahogany furniture gleamed under crystal chandeliers. 6 people sat around a massive conference table. All turned to stare. Their expressions ranged from confusion to contempt, but none held warmth. A silver-haired woman in pearls and a cream suit leaned forward. "Who is this person?" Her voice dripped with disdain. A man in his 30s wearing a Rolex that could pay Rosa's medical bills for a year smirked. "Dad's charity case. Probably conned the old man into changing his will." A younger woman in designer clothes whispered, just loud enough to hear. "Did he actually leave money to the help?" Cruel laughter rippled around the table. Maya wanted to run, wanted to disappear back into the safety of Rosie's diner where she understood the rules. But she planted her feet, lifted her chin, and met their stares. A nervous lawyer with wire-rimmed glasses gestured to an empty chair. "Miss Chen, please sit." The door at the far end opened. Everyone immediately straightened. The whispers died. The room went silent as a tomb. William Hurley entered, 6'3", broad-shouldered, wearing a midnight blue suit that cost more than Maya's car had when it was new. He had Brian's steel-gray eyes, but where Brian's had been soft with grief and loneliness, William's were cold, calculating, chips of granite that missed nothing. Salt and pepper hair perfectly styled, clean-shaven jaw carved from stone. He moved with the coiled menace of an apex predator, every step deliberate and controlled. He commanded the room without saying a word. His gaze swept across the table, assessing, weighing, judging. Then it landed on Maya. For 3 long seconds, he studied her. His expression was unreadable, not hostile, but not welcoming either, just intense. Finally, "Miss Chen, thank you for coming." His voice was a low rumble that vibrated in her chest. Maya could barely whisper, "Mr. Hurley?" William sat at the head of the table, unbuttoning his suit jacket with practiced ease. "Let's begin." Patterson opened his leather portfolio with trembling hands, as if the documents inside might explode. He cleared his throat nervously. Last will and testament of Brian Michael Hurley. He read through standard provisions: trust funds for grandchildren, property distributions, charitable donations to organizations Maya had never heard of. Numbers so large they stopped meaning anything. Then, to Maya Chen of Chicago, Illinois, I leave the sum of $50,000. The room exploded. Victoria shot to her feet, pearls swinging. $50,000 to some waitress? The nephew slammed his hand on the table, making everyone jump. This is insane. She must have manipulated him, played on his grief. The younger woman's voice went shrill. Grandpa was senile. We can contest this. Maya sat frozen, unable to process the number. $50,000. She'd never seen that much money in her life. It could pay off Rosa's debt, cover her care for a year, let Maya go back to school, finish what she'd started. William raised one hand. Instant silence fell like a guillotine. His eyes never left Maya's face, studying her reaction with laser focus. Patterson continued, sweating now. The funds are designated specifically for completion of Miss Chen's nursing education and medical expenses for her grandmother, Rosa Chen. Brian had known. Somehow he'd known. Patterson's voice shook harder now. Additionally, I leave Miss Chen the deed to the property at 1247 South Morgan Street. William's jaw tightened, the first real emotion he'd shown. He said flatly, dangerously, "The flower shop." Patterson nodded, swallowing hard. Yes, along with all contents, including the basement storage area. Victoria's face went pale. She turned to William. Michael, you can't let this happen. William's voice cut like steel through silk. My father made his choice. Maya felt lost, drowning in confusion. I don't understand. What flower shop? Patterson handed her a manila envelope. Inside were keys, old brass keys that felt heavy with history, and a property deed with her name already typed in. William finally spoke to her directly, his voice carefully controlled. My mother's flower shop. It's been closed for 11 years, since she died. The photo. The woman with tulips and sunshine's smile. Esther's garden. Brian had given her his wife's dream. Patterson cleared his throat. There's also a personal letter. To be read privately. He handed Maya a cream envelope sealed with wax. Maya's hands shook as she broke the seal. Inside, Brian's shaky handwriting covered a single page. Dear Maya, forgive an old man for his secrets. The flower shop was Esther's dream. After she died, I couldn't bear to sell it, so I kept it boarded up for 11 years, like a tomb. You brought light back into my life when I thought I'd spend my last days in darkness. You deserve a dream too. The shop is yours, but be careful. My son doesn't forgive, and he doesn't forget. The basement holds answers you'll need. I was never the man Esther wanted me to be. Maybe you can be the person she would have loved. With gratitude, Brian Maya's tears fell on the paper, blurring the ink. She looked up to find William staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. Not quite hostile, but something darker, heavier. Grief? Rage? Both? He stood abruptly. The room seemed to shrink around him. We need to talk, privately. It wasn't a request. William led Maya down a hallway lined with more stern portraits, their painted eyes tracking her every step. He opened a heavy door into his private office. Dark wood paneling, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking manicured grounds that stretched to the tree line. He poured 2 glasses of scotch from a crystal decanter, slid one across the desk to Maya. She didn't drink. Her hands were still shaking too hard to trust herself. William drank his in one swallow, poured another with steady hands. Long silence filled the space between them like something living. Finally, he spoke. What did my father tell you about himself? Maya's voice came out small. That he was a businessman, that he made mistakes, that he missed your mother. William laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that had nothing to do with humor. Businessman, that's one way to put it. William walked to the window, turning his back to her. His shoulders were rigid, tension radiating from every line of his body. My father was Brian Hurley. To you, he was a lonely old man who liked his toast cut into triangles. He paused, jaw clenched so hard Maya could see the muscle jump. To the FBI, he was the accountant for the Calabrese crime family, for 40 years. Maya's glass slipped, nearly fell. She caught it, but scotch sloshed over her fingers. William continued without turning. He laundered money, cooked books, made shell corporations disappear and reappear like magic tricks, helped bury evidence, literally and figuratively. When I was 16, my father tried to get out, thought he'd paid his dues, served his time, could walk away clean. They disagreed. He turned to face her. His eyes were chips of ice. They killed my mother, made it look like a mugging outside her flower shop. She died on the sidewalk, holding tulips she'd just bought. Maya's hand covered her mouth. So I did what any son would do. I took over my father's network, expanded it, professionalized it, made it untouchable. He walked to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a thick folder. Legitimate businesses, offshore accounts, political connections on both sides of the aisle. The Hurley name doesn't whisper anymore, Miss Chen. It roars. He slid the folder across the desk. Maya opened it with numb fingers. Inside, surveillance photos of herself at Rosie's diner, close-ups of her serving Brian, notes about Rosa's medical condition, Marcus's abandonment, her student debt down to the dollar. For 8 months I had people watching you. My father watched you, tested you, waited to see what kind of person you really were. Every morning, someone sat in that SUV across the street documenting everything. William leaned forward, hands flat on the desk. That flower shop isn't just a flower shop. The basement contains a vault, 40 years of evidence, names, transactions, photographs, wire recordings, ledgers that could bring down crime families, politicians, judges, cops. Everything my father collected as insurance, as protection, as his escape route that he never took. Maya could barely whisper. Why are you telling me this? William's smile was a predator's grin, all teeth, no warmth. Because now it's yours. And there are people who would kill to get it, people who've been searching for that vault for 11 years. He straightened, buttoning his suit jacket. My father chose you for a reason, Miss Chen. He saw something in you he never saw in me. Now you have to choose what kind of person you are. William circled back to his desk, tension radiating from his controlled movements. Let me explain the situation you've inherited. He gestured to the folder. My cousin Vincent, the man who came to your diner, wants to take over the family business. He thinks I've gone soft, that legitimizing our operations makes us weak. William's jaw tightened. Vincent believes in the old ways, blood and fear. He's planning a coup, consolidating support from traditionalists who miss the violence. He needs that vault, names, evidence, leverage to blackmail my supporters into switching sides, make them more afraid of him than of me. William met Maya's eyes. If Vincent gets that vault, dozens of people die, witnesses disappear, families destroyed. He'll purge everyone loyal to my father's vision of getting out. He walked to the bar, poured a third scotch. But I need the vault too. It's my insurance policy, mutually assured destruction, the only language some people understand. He drank slowly this time, studying her over the rim of his glass. But I won't take it from you. My father made his choice. Now you make yours. William set down his glass with deliberate care. Option 1. Give the vault to me. I pay you $500,000. Clear Rosa's medical bills, set you up for life. You walk away clean, finish nursing school, never look back. His voice went flat. But you become complicit in my empire. Everything I do with that leverage, the good and the bad, sits on your conscience. Option 2. Give the vault to Vincent. He'll pay even more. Probably $1 million. Maybe more if you negotiate well. William's eyes hardened. But people will die. Loyal men who served my father, their families. You'll spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder, blood on your hands that never washes off. Option 3. Destroy everything. Burn it, shred it, erase 40 years of evidence. Sounds noble, doesn't it? He leaned forward. Except you make enemies of both Vincent and me. Neither of us can protect you from what comes next. And Rosa becomes very, very vulnerable. Maya's breath caught. Option 4. William paused, something unreadable crossing his face. Or you find your own way, like my father hoped you would. Maya stood, legs shaking so hard she had to grip the chair. I don't want this. Any of this. I just cut an old man's toast. William's expression softened. Barely, but it was there. I know. That's exactly why he chose you. He picked up the keys from the desk, walked over, and placed them in her palm. They felt like they weighed 1,000 pounds. You have 72 hours before Vincent makes his move. The vault has a combination lock. The numbers are in my father's letter to you. Maya stared at the keys, then looked up. What would your mother want? William flinched as if she'd struck him. Long pause, the longest yet. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. My mother believed everyone deserves a second chance, even people who don't deserve forgiveness. His mask slipped back into place. But she's gone, and we live in the real world. He led her to a private exit, away from the family still arguing in the conference room. His last words stopped her at the door. Miss Chen, trust no one, including me. Maya arrived at the flower shop alone at 11 p.m. when the street was empty enough that no one would notice. The storefront was a corpse. Boarded-up windows, graffiti scarring the walls, broken glass glittering on the sidewalk. The neighborhood had deteriorated around it, forgotten like Brian himself. She heard sirens wailing in the distance, shouting from an alley 2 blocks over. Her hands shook as she worked the keys into the rusted lock. Inside, dust covered everything like a funeral shroud. But beneath the decay, she could see the ghost of what had once been beautiful. Dried flowers still stood in crystal vases, their colors faded to gray. Faded photographs lined the walls. One showed Esther smiling in front of the shop on opening day, ribbon-cutting scissors in hand. In the background stood Brian, young, straight-backed, proud, a different person entirely. Another photograph, Esther and a young William, maybe 10 years old, planting tulips together, his small hands covered in dirt, her face radiant with joy. Maya whispered into the silence, "Oh, Brian, what did you do?" She found the basement door behind the counter, hidden by an old shelving unit she had to shove aside. Her breathing echoed in the empty shop. The wooden stairs creaked under her weight as she descended into darkness. She pulled a cord. A single bare bulb illuminated the massive space below. Filing cabinets lined the walls, bankers' boxes stacked 6 high, a safe in the corner, everything labeled with dates spanning 40 years, 1978, 2018, Brian's life's work, his insurance, his burden. Maya opened the first box with trembling hands. Manila folders, each one labeled with a name she recognized from news headlines, politicians, police chiefs, business leaders, federal judges. Photographs of secret meetings, envelopes stuffed with cash, handwritten ledgers in Brian's meticulous accountant script detailing every transaction. The second box contained recordings on old cassette tapes, each labeled with dates and initials, voices from the grave. She approached the safe, Brian's letter clutched in her other hand. The combination was written at the bottom, ESTHER, converted to numbers. The safe opened with a heavy click. Inside, more damning evidence, a stack of cash that she counted twice, $100,000, and one final letter addressed to whoever opens this. Maya sank to the concrete floor and read Brian's last confession. I started keeping evidence after they threatened Esther, planned to use it to protect my family. After she died, I kept collecting, out of guilt, out of fear, out of some desperate hope for redemption I knew I'd never deserve. William doesn't know the full extent of what's here. Neither does Vincent. They think they know my secrets. They don't. Use it to do what I never could, choose justice over survival. Maya sat among the boxes, overwhelmed, tears streaming down her face. Rosa's words echoed in her mind. Baby, when you don't know what to do what's right. But what was right? She looked at Esther's photograph again. Those kind eyes, that gentle smile. A woman who believed in second chances. A woman who died because of this life. Suddenly, Maya knew. She spent the next 3 days in that basement, calling in sick to Rosie's. She found an old scanner in the back office, coaxed it to life. For 72 hours, she digitized everything, every document, every photograph, every recording. Her eyes burned, her back ached. She barely slept. She created 2 flash drives with complete archives. Left the original evidence exactly where Brian had placed it. Then she made 3 phone calls. First to Vincent. I've made my decision. Meet me here tomorrow, 8 p.m. Second to William. Your cousin and I are meeting. I thought you'd want to know. Third, to a lawyer's office. I need to set up a dead man's switch. If anything happens to me, these files get sent to the FBI, the press, everyone. Maya knew this was dangerous, possibly suicidal, but she was done being afraid. Brian had given her a choice. She was choosing to end the game entirely. At 8 p.m., Maya stood in the basement, both flash drives hidden in her pocket. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Vincent arrived first with 2 enforcers. Broad-shouldered men with dead eyes and expensive suits that didn't quite hide their weapons. His oily smile made her skin crawl. Smart girl. William's getting sentimental in his old age, but you and me, we understand reality. Money talks, principles walk. Maya's voice was steadier than she felt. I wanted to meet with both of you. Vincent's smile faltered. What? The basement door opened. William descended the stairs, each step deliberate and controlled. His men emerged from the shadows, 6 armed figures who'd been waiting in silence. Vincent's hand moved toward his jacket. William's men moved faster. Within seconds, Vincent was on his knees, gun pressed to his head, his enforcers disarmed and restrained. William's eyes never left Maya. This better be good. Maya held up a flash drive, letting it catch the light. This is everything in this vault, digitized, 2 copies. Both men went absolutely still. I'm not playing your game. I'm ending it. She took a breath, committing to the cliff's edge. Copy 1 goes to the FBI tomorrow morning. Every name, every crime, every cover-up spanning 40 years. Let the law decide who's guilty. Copy 2 is with my lawyer. Dead man's switch. If anything happens to me, Rosa, or anyone I care about, everything goes public. News outlets, investigative journalists, politicians, social media. The world gets to see everything. Vincent started to laugh, a harsh, disbelieving sound. Maya spoke over him. You have 48 hours to turn yourselves in. Cooperate with the FBI. Give testimony. Accept whatever punishment comes. Or I release everything and let the world tear you apart. Vincent's laughter grew louder. You really think William will... I accept. William's voice cut through the basement like a blade. Everyone stared in shock. William looked at Maya with something that might have been respect. My father was right about you. You're not playing the game, you're flipping the table. He gestured to his men. Let him go. They released Vincent, who scrambled backward, confusion and rage warring on his face. William turned to his cousin. You have 48 hours too. Choose wisely. Vincent spat on the floor. You're both dead, you hear me? Dead. He fled up the stairs, his men following. William remained, studying Maya in the silence that followed. You know he'll come for you. That's what copy 2 is for. William nodded slowly. Then, surprisingly, he smiled, sad, genuine. My mother would have liked you. The trial of the century had concluded 3 weeks ago. William Hurley, 12 years, federal prison, pleaded guilty, cooperated fully with prosecutors. Vincent Calabrese, 25 years, tried to run, caught at the airport with $2 million in cash. 47 total arrests, 3 crime families dismantled. A network of corruption exposed to daylight. Maya stood in front of 1247 South Morgan Street. The boards were gone, replaced by clean windows that sparkled in afternoon sun. A hand-painted sign swung gently in the breeze. Esther's Garden, where everyone blooms. Inside, the former vault had been transformed into a community space, job training programs for ex-convicts, free flowers delivered to hospice patients every week, a nursing scholarship fund that had already helped 12 students. Maya would graduate next spring. A photograph of Brian and Esther hung on the wall with a brass plaque. In memory of Brian Hurley, who taught us that it's never too late to choose kindness over fear. Rosa, recovering well, arranged tulips at the counter. Her smile was crooked from the stroke, but her eyes were bright. "You did good, baby." The bell chimed. A young woman entered, early 20s, black eye poorly covered with makeup, shoulders hunched like she was trying to disappear. Maya recognized that look. She'd seen it in mirrors after Marcus left, after Rosa's stroke, after the world had beaten her down and told her she didn't matter. "I need flowers for my mother's grave." The woman's voice was barely a whisper. "I don't have much money." Maya smiled. "Daisies are on the house today. Would you like to sit down? I just made coffee." The woman's eyes filled with tears of relief and disbelief that someone actually saw her. Maya heard Brian's voice in her memory. "You see people, really see them." And finally, she understood. Legacy isn't what you leave to people. It's what you leave in them. The courage to show up, the strength to care when caring costs everything, the wisdom to know that one small act of kindness, repeated every single day, can change the entire world. If you believe that compassion is stronger than fear, and that kindness can break even the darkest cycles, share this story. Because somewhere, right now, someone is sitting alone, hoping that someone like you will finally see them.